Hi, we're so glad you've joined us today on Let's Talk About It. Kelly, Teresa, and I are going to tackle a tough topic once again today. And we'll talk with Ashley Gay Vocco from Family Services, Inc. So grab a cup of coffee and let's go. About you, but I sense a weariness in people, believers and non-believers, and I don't like it. I don't like it in myself, and I don't like it in others. Now hear me out. We all go through difficult seasons in life, and some seasons are harder than others, and some last longer than others. As believers in Jesus, this should not surprise us. Let me read a short passage to you from Habakkuk. How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Violence is everywhere. I cry, but you do not come to save. Must I forever see these evil deeds? Why must I watch all this misery? Wherever I look, I see destruction and violence. I am surrounded by people who love to argue and fight. The law has become paralyzed, and there is no justice in the courts. The wicked far outnumber the righteous, so that justice has become perverted. This could have been said by someone today. We hear so many people complaining, just like Habakkuk did. But listen to the Lord's reply. Look around at the nations. Look and be amazed. For I am doing something in your own day, something you wouldn't believe even if someone told you about it. Friends, this world can be discouraging. Get in the Word. You will see that it is relevant for today. God is big enough to handle our complaints, our questions, even our lament. But He answers us. Listen again to God's reply to Habakkuk. For I am doing something in your own day, something you wouldn't believe, even if someone told you about it. That also can be said by us today. Here we are, just three women with big opinions, all backed by a biblical standpoint. Let's talk about it.
This segment is brought to you by Harry's Construction, whose motto is, if you can dream it, we can create it. They are the kitchen and bath design experts, so call Harry's Construction for all your remodeling needs.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. We have promised you from the very beginning that we will tackle tough topics. And today we're going to talk about one that really affects a lot of people. We're going to talk about depression. Girls, it's a tough thing. And Kelly, I think you said October is Depression Awareness Month.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing that makes it tough for me is to kind of almost sympathize or know how to relate to it because I've never faced it. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I haven't had moments of sadness and depression. Actually, it was funny when I looked up depression. Sadness and depression are completely different.
Totally different things.
So when you feel like you're sad, that's not the same as depression. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I'm like, I don't know that I've ever been depressed. Maybe the only time I can think of is when I tried to have a child for 7 years. I did go through something during that, but on an ongoing basis that I have to feel like I need to talk to someone about it or get help, I don't really feel like I've faced that. So then I'm like, I don't know how to relate. Mm-hmm.
One of the ways that I help distinguish sadness and depression is reading the Psalms. The lament of King David. King David suffered from depression. And you can read the Psalms and his literal pouring out. He is distressed to the point of death. Mm-hmm. And I think that when depression hits, you feel like you're walking through cement, and that you can just barely move every day.
Yeah.
And having someone in my family suffer from anxiety. Depression was the byproduct of anxiety. And I didn't know until someone in my church actually was very descriptive of what anxiety was doing to them. And it creates a lot of physical distress, like rapid heartbeat. It causes your legs to twitch and body. It's like all this distress.
There are physical manifestations of these illnesses.
Yes, and then in sweating, like profuse sweating and different things. But this person in my family, when I finally started to wrap my head around it, that this might be what they're going through, it went on for a few years, even after there was an awareness. And this person just recently this year said, I have put everybody and everything to the forefront of my life since I was 14 years old. It's been this person, this job, that job. But this year, I am going to tackle this for me. And that was huge. And that required counseling, which we always say so many of us don't want to do. Counseling. He went to the doctor, and there was some mild medicines given to him to help deal with a few different things, very mild. And this person now, on their own, applied for college again, has got straight 100s in college, and is working a full-time job. There is a way out. There is a way out, but I can also see where it could be so debilitating that I've heard people say they don't even want to get out of bed in the morning, and that makes me really sad.
Another thing I read too is that sometimes it's hidden very well.
Oh,
It absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
That
Yes.
you don't even realize
Yes.
that the person is facing it because they're not showing what we would think
Right.
someone depressed would look like. And, you know, that hurts my heart to think that people are going through that and feeling like they need to hide it and not reaching out to anybody. Because really, you know, I would love to be a support system to those people, to pray with them, to encourage them. And it's funny though, another thing I read is that positive words don't actually help
No.
a
No.
person that's depressed. Like, it doesn't help them.
Nope.
And I was like, wow, you know.
Because it is a mental switch. It's a physiological thing that cannot be helped. And the person who is in it feels like they can't get help.
yes.
Honestly, it's an attack of Satan that also makes us feel like, well, if I'm a Christian, why can't I pray my way out of this?
Right.
Why can't I fix
That is
this?
a big thing. Because if you are a
Absolutely.
Christian, you think, I shouldn't have to be going through this.
That's right.
Or I don't want to tell anybody because why would a Christian
Right.
face these things?
Right.
And so I wish people would just be more open to say, hey, I am facing this. This is what I am. And we do have, I know at Transformation Church of a few women who have come forward and said, you know, I do face this. This is something that I battle. And I'm so glad that they did because.
And you don't think you think any less of them?
Oh, no.
No, absolutely not.
I don't 100% understand it, like I said.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, but I'm glad that they're coming forward because I believe then other people hopefully will feel like, hey, if that person is facing this, maybe I can come forward and say something. Because we've talked about it, it's exhausting. You hide it. You don't know if you want to get out of bed that day. You don't. It even talked about how just doing the most simplest of activities takes 2 to 3 times longer because you just don't have the energy to do it.
And I think well, I don't know if it's new, but we're just now feeling comfortable enough to talk about postpartum depression
Yes.
and how common
Yes.
that is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is
That's
so
a huge one.
common.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing somebody say one time, what do you mean depressed? Like basically just get over it.
Yeah.
Well,
You've got a good life. What's wrong with you?
Exactly.
Yes.
And it is just not how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah. So how do we intervene? How do we I mean, honestly, I pray that God makes me sensitive to seeing
Right.
what someone isn't saying.
Right.
I
Yes.
want to be able to sense it.
I think that's a great thing, just asking God, help us to be sensitive to what that person's going through, even though we don't understand it. Help us to be that support system that people, you know, if it's just a listening ear, sometimes we want to do all the talking.
That's right.
And really they just want someone just to listen.
Right.
You know?
I think Christian counseling is important
Yeah.
to tackle it.
Yeah, Christian counseling is
Yeah, like from a biblical standpoint, but also from a medical standpoint.
That's right.
Both those things together, I think,
Yep.
can make great strides.
Yep. And if you have a Christian doctor, a physician, and
That'd
there
be-
are Christian physicians, they can work with you, not just dump a bunch of medication on you to make you a zombie.
Right.
But there are ways, and it's not always permanent.
right.
It's not
Don't
always
feel
permanent.
like you can't take the medicine for a time if that's what your body
Right,
needs. Sometimes
exactly.
I feel like, oh, I can't take. No, go ahead.
Yeah.
You know, and I just encourage that person that's on the medicine, ask God, you know, to help you.
Yeah.
What's the goal here? When, you know, is there a way to get off of it eventually? You know, but for the time being that you do take it, and if it helps, then you do that for yourself.
And really just coming alongside somebody and saying, can I take a walk with you? Can I do some meal planning with you? Can I sit beside you in church?
Those are good.
And keep your mouth shut. Just be there.
Right.
Just be there for people. I
Absolutely.
really feel like that's super important. We want to encourage you, our viewers, if you struggle with this, reach out. Please reach out. When we come back, we'll have our guest for the day.
Mouth-watering family recipes, easy-to-make meals, humor and faith fill the inspiring show Dano on the Counter. Born with only half a spine, Dano Burkhardt was never supposed to be able to hold his head up. Despite countless surgeries, a stroke, leg amputations, and kidney transplants, Dano developed a contagious love for life. Join Dano on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. on Fox 8 as he shares his easy-to-make dishes and the hope that keeps him pushing forward.
Impact Productions, a multi-layer technology company providing on-site, online, and in-studio video services. Contact Impact Productions to capture your story.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. We would like to welcome Ashley Vocco from Family Services, Inc. Thank you for coming to see us, Ashley.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Family Services.
So I am Ashley Vocco. I am the Director of Victim Services at Family Services. And so Family Services is an umbrella organization. So we have 5 different programs underneath that umbrella of Family Services. So Victim Services being one of them. You might also know that Family Services operates the only homeless and family shelter in Blair County. So that's us. The only teen center and shelter. That's also Family Services. Most people might not recognize we have an intellectual disabilities program. So we work with people who live in homes who have intellectual disabilities, and we provide staff and support 24 hours a day for them. We also have a children's advocacy center. So this is a place where if a child has been the victim of suspected physical or sexual abuse or has witnessed a crime, they can go and be forensically interviewed there. So it's a more trauma-informed.
So it's a safe place.
Trauma-informed, child-friendly, but everybody who needs to know that story is able to watch it live. And that also helps a child.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're really excited. It's sad to say that it's really been a game changer in Blair County. You may or may not have noticed in the news, you're seeing more child predators being prosecuted, and that's probably a direct result from the CAC. So we're excited about that.
Wow.
You guys do a lot.
We do a lot.
That's
And then you have
right.
our program, our victim services
So
program.
how many people work in your department?
When we are fully staffed, we are about 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And victim services, what all do you offer? What services do you offer to the victims?
So we work with people who have been a victim of any crime. Our wheelhouse, I will say, is domestic violence and sexual assault, child abuse, any type of those interpersonal crimes. And we provide, we're kind of jack of all trades, right? Anything a person needs as a direct result of their victimization. So we recognize that there are several barriers to people who might be in abusive relationships who can't leave those relationships. One of them being homelessness. They've been isolated, they're not allowed to have jobs, or they, for some reason they're unable to work. So we will assist a person in helping to find them safe and affordable housing through the lens of the domestic violence, right?
Okay.
So you can go, many other places do great work in Blair County with helping people find homes. We come in as a lens of also making sure you're safe from your perpetrator.
Okay.
So we provide housing.
Okay.
We also, one of the other barriers people have to not leave abusive situations is if they have a child with the abuser. So we provide free legal representation through an attorney for people
You actually have an attorney?
We have an attorney on staff.
Excellent.
Yes, she's amazing. Like if you ever met a
Excellent.
go-getter, she's amazing, and she will fight tooth and nail for our survivors who prior to then may not have had the means and resources to fight for themselves
and
in court.
they need somebody who can empower them.
Right. Again,
And fight for them.
all coming through the lens of DV, right? So it's attorney and an advocate. So,
Wow.
yeah, she's pretty amazing. So we really try to understand the barriers that may prevent a person from safely leaving, because how many times have you heard a story and you might say, well, why didn't she just leave?
Right.
That's the most common
I
question.
always actually, it's hard because if you haven't been through it to understand why didn't they just get up and leave? Why
Yes.
would they stay
Yes,
and
absolutely.
continue to be
Yes.
abused?
And that's a very common question, and I think it's human nature, because from the outside looking in, you're like, just leave. But so many barriers to leaving that are created by the abuser. Isolation, again, control over everything, coercive control, everything. So we really help overcome many of those common barriers so the person, when they're ready, and not everybody is ready, and that's okay too, but when they're ready to leave, we're there to help them through that process.
And
keep
do
them
y'all
safe.
provide counseling after? Is it a big, long process, or what does it look like?
It looks like whatever that person wants. So
Okay.
we often use the analogy that the person we're helping is the driver of their bus. They can take that bus wherever they want, in whichever way they want. They can allow us on, they can allow us off. It's really up to them. We're just there to help.
How do people
hold them
get
out.
to you?
So several ways. We try to really be as accessible as possible. So we
Okay.
do offer a 24-hour hotline. It's answered locally right here.
Really? So you're not going to a call center somewhere and then they call you?
So very recently, I'd say in the past year, we did switch to a quote-unquote call center.
Okay.
It's our sibling agency in Indiana County.
Okay.
So it's
that's
DV
local.
advocates.
Yeah.
And they're DV advocates. We're all under the same coalition, the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence, where we call each other sibling agencies. Because in 2017, we did close our brick and mortar shelter.
Okay.
So that's where our hotline was answered 24 hours a day. And then from the past 5 years, we were getting it on our cell phones, myself included. We did go to the call center. The call center calls us. It's a little bit more survivor and victim centered,
Yes.
because I will tell you myself, I've been woken up at 3 a.m. by that hotline, and it takes a minute. You're kind of groggy. Got to get out of the room. My husband's snoring away. You don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. So it's a little more victim centered, that they get somebody who's awake and can be spot on from the get-go. And then they call us. And we still provide shelter, and I think that's a common misconception, that when we closed our brick and mortar building, that we no longer provide emergency shelter. But that's not the case. We still provide emergency shelter for people who are fleeing dangerous situations.
Okay.
We just utilize what's called a hotel model. So we have
Okay.
several hotels within the county that we utilize, and it's a little bit safer that way as
okay.
well.
Interesting.
Yes, it would be safer
Yeah.
because then the perpetrator cannot have direct access. They would at least have to go past the front desk.
Right. And so, also our brick and mortar shelter had been around for 20 plus years. It was before my time being here. It was known. As much as we wanted to keep it a secret, it was
Absolutely.
known. So it's just safer that way because we don't use the same hotel. We use multiple different hotels, and the only people who know it are really in our program.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now,
Okay.
is this a high percentage in our area of domestic abuse? Would you is this a area that we see a lot of that, or?
When you really get to know and understand the power and control behind domestic abuse, yes. So what you're not, thankfully, seeing is a whole lot of people walking around with split lips and black eyes.
Exactly, but there's other means of abuse.
Right.
Yes.
Financial abuse, you see a lot of people who are not allowed to work or who do work but their paycheck is taken by their abuser and they're not, down to the cent. You got to write a shopping list.
That
Tell me what
would
it
never
costs.
occur to me.
Yes. So that's
How do we recognize things like that? Is
know-
there a way that we can be aware of it?
Thank you for asking because that's the biggest thing we always advocate is just know the people in your circle, right?
Okay.
So if somebody has to ask permission to do a lot of things, now there's a difference. So my husband and I get into this, right? There's a difference between asking permission and just letting your spouse know, right?
Right.
So
Right.
of course we always want healthy relationships. That's
Right.
all we always want, which means open and honest communication
Yes.
between two people. But when one person seems to have all the power and control, when one person's the decision-making entity of that relationship, that's when you really want to start looking. So if you're thinking about someone, if you're listening and you're thinking about so-and-so does always have to ask her husband or his wife. I'm using a lot of she, victim, he, but we do know
this
that.
is a show to women, so that's
there we
fine.
go. Okay. So yeah, just recognizing if somebody has to ask permission to do things, or if somebody doesn't have access to their own money, if they can't pull out their own card, that's a red flag. Not always a red flag, but something that should pique an eyebrow up, and make you maybe ask a little bit further questions.
Okay. So there are red flags that we could see and think, okay, I need to pay a little closer attention to the other things that are going on with this person.
Right, right. And just act, how is that person talking about their spouse or their significant other? Is it out of fear? Is it, so not only asking permission for things or not having access to what many of us in healthy relationships would say, again, I have access to my own money. I can go where I want. I'm just going to tell my spouse I'm going here. But if they can't do that, or if they're talking about their spouse and they're kind of fearful or in a hurry, I have to get home, he's going to be home or she's going to be home. Again, not always,
Right.
always. There are relationships that work that way, and that's not at all what I'm saying. If that works for some people, as long as they're both equally invested in that type of relationship, that's all. You just want everyone to have the say and an equal voice in their relationship.
Right. And I think today too, the one issue is what you see on Facebook.
Yes, is not always
is
true.
not always
Yes.
what's really going on behind
Right.
closed doors.
Absolutely. And what we found, so when people come to us, and I almost hesitate to say this, but when people come to family services, they may not have other resources available to them for whatever reason. They grew up that way or they've been so isolated. But then you have some people who don't seek our services because they do have other resources. Those people are the ones who might be in the most serious relationships, serious abusive relationships, because they are trying to portray something that might not be true when you close the doors.
Ashley, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us today. We'll be right back with our tip for the day.
For generations, Dick's Home Care has been providing the best equipment and service for patient care at home. Breathe easier with oxygen from Dick's Home Care. Oxygen concentrators give you a continuous oxygen supply at home. Oxygen cylinders supply oxygen without power. And portable oxygen frees you to go. Dick's Home Care technicians will set your oxygen up and make sure you know how to use it. Call the leader in home medical equipment, Dick's Home Care.
Made by Vocco is a father and son business that produces high-quality handmade wooden products such as cutting boards, bowls, bottle stoppers and more. Products for sale can be found on their Etsy site or in downtown Altoona at the Clay Cup. You can't go wrong buying from Made by Vocco.
Hi there, my name's Troy Ferguson, and many of you may not know me, but I'm the executive producer of the show you're watching right now. And I want to first of all tell you from a producing standpoint, thank you for watching, thank you for supporting. This is something we enjoy bringing to your home every week. The ladies come up with incredible topics to talk about, sometimes tough questions. We've had a multitude of guests week in and week out, and I know many have been blessed by this show. I want to say thank you to those of you that have supported it. Now, one of the reasons I'm here today is throughout each segment you'll see a few commercials and a little bit of promotion for this or that. And I want to tell you that this is what keeps us on the air. This is what keeps us coming into your home every week. And I want to just tell you, if you have a business or an organization that would be interested in sponsoring or advertising on this show, I would like you to get in contact with me directly. You can reach me at troy@jointhecity.org, and I'll be glad to respond and connect with you about what the options are. But I mainly wanted to say thank you. We're in our second season, and this is an amazing show that I get to watch every time these ladies get together. And the chemistry and the joy that you see on the show is something that is behind the scenes as well. I'm blessed to be part of this. I'm blessed that you are watching it and supporting it. And if you have any desire to do more with your support through advertising or through sponsorship, please get in contact with me. Once again, thank you for watching, and let's get back to the show.
The tip I want to share with you today is one that we have laughed about in our studio. Have you ever heard of primer, putty, spackle? Nope, I'm not talking about home repairs. I am talking about makeup. Primer is the product you put on your face after you have cleaned and moisturized, but before you put on your foundation. It smooths the skin and fills in the fine lines and wrinkles. There are as many different brands as there are women. These just happen to be the two I have in my makeup jar right now. So try it. It really makes a difference. Would you ever paint a wall without first smoothing out all the holes, cracks, and crevices? That's what makeup primer is for your face. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time on Let's Talk About It.
When it's time for a new roof, Champion Roofing is your best choice. We're a certified award-winning roofing contractor, meaning your roof is done right the first time. Call today.
Champion Roofing, we're the solution.
You pick up the Word of God. You don't need another book. You don't need some other author tell you, I'm not against books, I'm not against authors. But the Word of God is medicine unto your soul. You need to remember your redemption so you move forward. Sometimes we got to go backwards in order to go forward.
I want to encourage you to join us every Sunday here on ABC at 5 a.m. and 12 p.m. You can also catch the archive of our messages by visiting transformationchurch.org. Transformation Church. It's who we are, it's what we do.